Okay, for years we have known that the MiYOSMART lenses can slow down the progression of myopia. But researchers asked one simple question: what if you made the signal to slow down eye growth even stronger? And that question led to a new lens design called the MiYOSMART IQ with some surprising results. Hey, good optometry morning. I'm Dr. Michael Nelson, your YouTube eye doctor. And if you don't know me, I've got over 30 years of experience in the optical industry. I've got tens of thousands of followers, and I'm a key opinion leader in the area of optometry. But today, we are talking about the exciting new MiYOSMART IQ lens. So a poster was presented at the 41st Asia Pacific Academy of Ophthalmology in China. And it was talking about this lens. And it was talking about the exciting results from only 6 months. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what the real problem is. So the problem with myopia or nearsightedness in kids is not really about the prescription being really high, but it's about something called the axial elongation. Basically, the elongation of the eyeball. The eyeball is getting way too big. It's stretching too long. And that stretching too long will give you a higher prescription. But the real problem is down the road, it stretches the tissue and it puts you at risk for things like retinal detachments, glaucoma, myopic maculopathy. All these things are really horrible eye diseases that you don't want to get as an adult. And if you can slow down the growth of the eye as a child to prevent these, you want to do that. So the company Hoya has a lens called MiYOSMART, and it's not a new lens. It's been around for almost a decade, and we know it works. It uses something called DIMS technology. And if you want to learn a little bit about this original study, I've got a video up here that you can watch and learn all about this. The bottom line is that the MiYOSMART lens works, and it helps slow down the growth of the eye and myopia in kids by over 50%. We've been using it for years. It's a great lens. It works really, really well. But what Hoya thought was, if a little bit's good, what about a lot? And so they've introduced a new lens called the MiYOSMART IQ, and it adds something called TED technology, which stands for Triple Enhanced Design. And what that means is 3 things that they've changed about the original MiYOSMART lens to try to make this better. First of all, there's a clear central zone in the MiYOSMART lens that allows clear vision for the child when they're wearing it. They've made that smaller. Second thing that they've done is the segments that contain the power that put the image in focus in front of the retina to send a signal to slow down growing, they've made those stronger. And the third thing that they've done is that they've made the treatment zone larger so it covers almost the entire lens and not just a certain section. So 3 things they've done to try to increase the effectiveness and the power of the MiYOSMART lens, and that's called the MiYOSMART IQ. So the question in this study that we're looking to answer is, did it work? And since you made this so much stronger, can the kids even wear this, or they find it horribly uncomfortable? So in the study, what they did, they took about 200 Asian kids aged between 4 and 12 years old, and their average prescription was about minus 250. So these were kids that were already myopic, and they were kids that their myopia was increasing before they went into the study. And what they did is they put them into 3 different groups. One group wore a standard single vision lens, didn't have any intention to try to slow down the myopia. The second group wore the original MiYOSMART lens. And the third group wore the MiYOSMART IQ with the TED technology. So what did the results show us? Well, let's talk about axial length, which is how long the eye is growing, which really is the most important number if you're dealing with myopia. A little side note, if your child has myopia and you want it to be treated with myopia, seek out a clinic that measures axial length, because that's the most accurate way that we can measure whether the eye is actually slowing down its growth. And that's really the only thing that matters, not really how high the prescription is. So when you're looking for an optometrist, make sure you find a clinic that measures the axial length. So what the study showed, after 6 months of these kids wearing it, the kids that were in the standard single vision lens, their eyes grew by 0.184 millimeters. Now, what about the kids that were in the MiYOSMART lens? This is the original MiYOSMART lens that we've been using for years. Other clinics have been using it for years, and we know it works. Well, those kids' eyes only grew by 0.106 millimeters in 6 months. So that's about a 40% reduction in how fast the eyes grew. But what happened in the MiYOSMART IQ? Well, these kids, their eyes only grew by 0.015 millimeters. That's 0.015 millimeters. Their eyes hardly grew at all. Basically, the MiYOSMART IQ lens, it almost halted the axial length growth of the eye. That amount that they measured, it's almost a rounding error in measuring the axial length. Pretty incredible result. Now, Hoya says that this is about twice as effective as the original Myiosmart lens, which definitely it is. But there was something even weirder when we looked at what happened to their spectacle prescription, what happened to the power of the lens. So the kids that were wearing the single vision lens, their prescription changed by 0.25 diopters in 6 months. Now, that's a pretty rapid change. Those kids are definitely rapidly changing. And the kids that were in the Myosmart original lens, their eyes only grew by about 0.1 diopter in 6 months. That's definitely a significant reduction in the growth of the eye. And that's more equivalent to what we've seen with this lens when we use it in our clinic. But the weird thing was in the kids that were wearing the Myiosmart IQ, their prescription changed by plus 0.16 millimeters. So that's kind of weird because we shouldn't be able to shrink the eye. We shouldn't be able to let the eye get shorter, but that's what the results were indicating. Now, there is a reason behind this, and the reason is not that the eyeball is getting shorter, but what we know is that myopia management spectacle lenses, and there's a lot of studies that show this, they actually thicken a layer in the retina called the choroid. The choroid is the layer of blood vessels that's directly underneath the retina. And so kids that are wearing myopia management spectacle lenses, we know that the choroid gets thicker. And the axial length, it doesn't measure the outside length of the eyeball, but it measures from the front of the eye to the inside part of the eyeball. So if that choroid is thickening, it can kind of push the retina a little bit forward and you can get a little bit shortened reading. So it's not like the eyeball is getting shorter, but you're definitely getting a shorter reading. But it's an important measurement that we can know because those kids, their prescription was decreasing. And so the interesting thing is this study might indicate that in the future, we might have lenses that can halt the growth of the eyeball, thus protecting it from eye disease when they get older, but then also lower the prescription so the kids have a little bit lower prescription. Pretty cool stuff. But what about adaptation? Were these kids even able to wear them? Because it doesn't matter how well something works. If you can't use the treatment, you're not going to use it. So the interesting thing, there was hardly any dropouts in the study. And what a dropout is basically someone that doesn't finish the study. And there's lots of different reasons why you might not finish a study. And every study have some participants that drop out of it just for whatever reason. And if this lens was a problem wearing, we would expect there'd be a lot of kids that wouldn't finish. They'd say, oh, we can't wear this. We got to go back to an old lens. We got to drop out. We're not going to do this anymore. But only 1.5% of kids in the entire study dropped out and didn't finish the study, which is extremely low for any study. But there's one more crazy thing. We are entering a world where we as doctors can use eyeglasses, not just to help you see clearer, but we can actually use glasses as a medical treatment to prevent eye disease. So basically, we're just using light, but by using light in a particular way, we can modify biology. And if we can slow down myopia just by using light, perhaps there's other ways that we can slow down myopia using other means. Let's say, for example, medications or pharmaceuticals. And in fact, there is. And if you want to learn a little bit about how you can slow down myopia in your child by using a prescription medication, you should watch this video right here. And with that, have a great optometry day.